really by just saying, I was helping my son yesterday, literally write essays for application to like independent school. So he's taking independent school test and he has to write an essay. And when I don't know if you guys remember what it was like to be 12 years old. There's not a lot of philosophical thinking going on in his mind. And so I was trying to help him understand that when you write something, the person reading it should actually learn something about you. There should be something that you uncover that's within you that they can deduce a little more about your personal character. As you can imagine, the conversation wasn't great. He was fidgeting with something at the time. I don't know that any of it like actually sunk in, but I kind of grabbed his attention and I said to him, I said, look, man, one thing I want you to understand, the people that inspire me most in life, the people that I'm most interested in talking to, hiring, learning from, are people that live a question and not a statement. And I think it's interesting because one of the things, we talk in our program a lot about, hey, what's underrated and what's overrated. And there's a lot of what we do that's overrated. And there's a lot that we don't value that's actually the most important stuff. But to me, one of the things that's absolutely underrated is this idea that we're all, in every single one of us, you, me, alike. I turned 43 this year. I'd like to say that's still relatively young. We're still in search of something. That's why you're here. And, I'd love to see a full room because it means that there's that many coaches out there that are in search of something other than just a job. If it just becomes about the job, I think you're just functioning on the surface level. But what's underrated in our profession is mastery. And mastery, becoming a master teacher, becoming a master technician, becoming a master developer of people, of men, of leaders. Those are things that take time, and to me, they take obsessive thought. And when I got into coaching, there was no path for me. There was no design. I wasn't a great player. In fact, I was kind of probably on the fringe. I wouldn't have made the 105, let me tell you that. I didn't have a parent in coaching. There was no no one made calls on my behalf to get me a job. The only way I was going to find footing in coaching was to connect with really good people that took the time to pour into me and to develop and grow some sense of mastery within the profession, to become good at my job. And going back to my conversation with my son, I think so much of that is about the questions that you're asking. What are you in search of here at this convention? What are the things that you're looking to learn? And who are you asking the question why? Why do you do what you do? What is it that motivates you to do this drill, to schedule your time this way, so on and so forth? And I think it's interesting, and the reason I want to stay on this just for a second before I get into the crux of what I'm going to talk about, we need to live a question, but in the competitive arena, our play and our performance needs to be a statement. I think those two things go hand in hand. That I can ask the best questions and be in search for every minute of every day away from the competitive arena. But my competitive arena as a coach is when I step in front of my team. And in those moments, it's not so much about, asking them questions, but it's about the confidence I draw from having asked and answered the questions that are on my mind. Same for our players. How curious are you about how good you can become? And what is that leading you to do in your time? How are you sacrificing and suffering and dedicating time to find out the answer to that question? That search gives way to confidence when we play on Saturday. And so I challenge everyone to be in search, to ask great questions. And if this is the beginning of the week, it's the beginning of the week for me. Then set a course for yourself to actually pull something out of this beyond networking, but actually that makes you better at your craft. Because I think what we need and what our young people need right now are men and women and leaders in front of them that are developing themselves first.